Let's talk about why, for the high achieving woman with an empathic heart, it's so hard to receive love, money, support, rest, and admiration, and how to heal it. Welcome back to the Reclaimed podcast with your Italian host and spiritual mentor, Sara. If you're listening to this and you know you have a hard time receiving, then this episode is for you. And this is something that I literally learned last year, because I kept thinking that my problem was that I wasn't good at manifesting. But it was quite the opposite. We are so powerful that we do know how to manifest, but it wasn't able to click because I didn't know how to receive it. Like receive the abundance that it was meant to come in, receive the love and the support that it was meant to come in. So today, we're really going to help you understand the why and help you to understand also how to release it, because that's not just only what we do, but it does help to understand the path for someone who is listening to this and is asking and wondering, well, I've been to therapy, I've been through this, but nothing seems to change. Then I'm going to let you know towards like the mid episode how to release these wounds, because this is our specialty, and you can rapidly see an amount of immense transformation when you apply what we're about to tell you. Now, the best thing that you need to understand is that when you are leading and building and you hold so many responsibilities on your plate, and maybe you're also a mother, it can shift you out from different patterns that are keeping you stuck in survival mode. And it's so hard for someone who is so, I would say, successful or a high achieving woman to understand that she's still operating from survival. So last year, when I started doing work on myself and I started understanding that I was still running on survival, it wasn't really clicking, because I was like, well, I've been in survival, meaning like I have been completely rock bottom in my life after my divorce, hitting like zero in the bank account, not knowing how to support my family, starting a new business in a foreign country. So I was like, well, that was survival. But I didn't really understand that even building a business running solely on burnout and hustle mode, and I call it masculine energy, when you keep pushing and pushing and exhausting yourself and you feel guilty for not allowing yourself to rest. Well, and also using so much of your logical brain when you're meant to be a very integrated and embodied woman leading from your heart and intuition. Anyway, so last year I was like, well, I am not like in survival, but you can be a very highly successful woman making like banks and still operating from a survival pattern, meaning that your mind and your nervous system do not know how to hit the stop button. And this is not because you are incapable of receiving. You have what we call in the energetics a receiving wound, but because somewhere along the way, your nervous system learned that giving was safer than receiving. And there are different reasons why we are going to look at. One, for example, is disappointment, right? If we give, and we forget about receiving, then we are less likely to be disappointed. We are more in control. Now, this is going to show up, the receiving wound, in love, in money, in rest, support, admiration, in different form. And today we're going to look at all of that. And we're going to unpack what the receiving wound actually is, why highly achieving women experience it so deeply, how it blocks it, how to release it. Now, today we need to have a very open mind and an open heart to get into this episode, because once again, this episode that we are also channeling, it's It's a recalibration for the collective. Oh, and by the way, since we're talking about the collective, go ahead if you are ready to start shifting your energy and start learning how to grounding exercises, embodiment practices, activation, guided meditation, mini courses, then go ahead and click the link down below and I'll see you in the Reclaim Collective, which is not just a meditation app, not just a course platform. It is literally a spiritual ecosystem for the high achieving woman who is ready to be integrated, to reclaim her full power in business, love, leadership, everything. So I'll see you in there and let's talk about what actually the receiving wound is. It's not a mindset problem. It's not about self-worth affirmation or allowing more. The receiving wound lives in the nervous system and the subconscious reprogramming because everything starts there. It's the part of you that says, I feel safer doing it myself. I don't want to own anyone. If I receive, something will be expected of me. Rest feels unsafe and uncomfortable. Being admired makes me feel uneasy in my body, okay? So instead, you give, you overfunction, you overthink, you stay busy, you stay in motion. And everything that has to do with staying in motion and overproducing and overfunctioning, never resetting the nervous system, never quietly resetting. It doesn't mean that you can be on the couch and still listening to podcasts. You can still get very informed or watch movies. That's not resetting. That's still being in motion. That's a very masculine energy. So we're not in the receiving mode of, stillness is receiving mode. Now, let's go a little bit deeper. From the outside, it may look like strength because we are being conditioned that if you do not produce, if you don't overwork yourself, you're kind of like a loser. But from the inside, the body is oftentimes braced. The receiving wound forms when support was inconsistent, love came with conditions, and rest wasn't model or receiving meant losing autonomy. So the system adapts, and I'm curious to know what has been like for you. I'm going to share some of the examples. Just say the classic example for me of rest was not model is because maybe I shared this before. My Italian dad, he's still like that, taught me to be very in my masculine energy, an athlete, and we would go out on a Sunday biking for 8 hours a day until we would be completely destroyed, literally physically so tired would fall asleep. And that was the only way that rest was earned or the money was earned. He still can't understand different things about money. He has a very, what I call closed mindset, but that's okay. He's probably very old-fashioned Italian. The new age is different. All right. So why high achieving women struggle the most? Okay. Because you're probably wondering, well, other women are not like this. Why? And high achieving women seems to go for losers, seems to have a receiving problem. Okay, let's dissect this. High achieving women are especially vulnerable in the receiving mode because achievement often becomes a regulation strategy. So success creates the safety because if we are overworking ourselves, we don't think about the heart. We don't think about sitting with our problems. Control my schedule. The more I can control how many hours I do this and what I do and how that's going to go, then my vacation, type A, the more it is safer for me to live. And competence earns belonging. So raise your hand if you're this woman, because this woman, as I was, I had to do a very spiritual recalibration, becomes very good at providing, holding, leading, managing, and anticipating needs. So automatically we become givers and we are really good at multitasking and holding it all together, even when we have piles of things to do. But receiving requires trust. So I love when my clients that are very high achieving and very in their masculine come into the program. And for the first 3 months, of Reclaimed signature program where we unbind or we do this spiritual transformation, I would say that by halfway, they do not ask for help. Okay, we have a chat that it's private And they have a very hard time saying, I'm struggling with this. Can you help me with this? Can you give me an insight? Even though that's totally available to them. And I have to constantly remind them and checking in at first to rewire their brain to ask for support and start receiving the support. And I'm like, how are you doing? They're like, oh my God, I'm stressed out. And I'm like, why didn't you ask? And then I'm like, what do you need? And they're like starting slowly to rewire that brain because that requires trust. But it's not that they're trusting in their spiritual guide. They're trusting in themselves. They're starting to rebuild trust with themselves. So, and I love that as the time goes on, they're the ones that on Mondays, they send me their voice memo to like, let me know how the weekend went and let me know of their aha moments. And I love that because that creates momentum for a bigger transformation and miracles in life. So why is receiving so hard? Because it requires trust and it means to slow down, opening your heart, opening in energetics, letting someone else lead. Ooh, that's a good one. And we're going to talk about how that in a career setting or business setting that works because that's a little bit tricky. And allowing the unknown. So a lot of the time, this high, strong, power woman that love control because it's safe for us. They do not like the unknown. So when something feels and starts to crumble, we panic. They do not like to slow down. And if your system learned early that you had to rely on yourself, receiving can feel like a high risk. This is why many high achieving women attract partners who take more than they feel uncomfortable being spoiled or supported. They downplay compliments. They feel guilty resting. They self-sabotage when things get too good. Not because they don't deserve more, they do. And consciously, they tell themselves and they tell me, Sara, I deserve to experience this love. And I'm like, of course you do. But until this wound runs your nervous system and your subconscious, we're not going to go anywhere. So their body specifically doesn't yet recognize ease as safe. It doesn't. And there is again, rewiring happening that must be taking place. And it shows up, this wound, let's take it a little bit more practical, as once again, in love, choosing emotionally unavailable partners, giving to feel secure, and feeling unsafe, being soft or needy. And let me know if this is you. And maybe you are focusing on love and you're breaking this pattern in money, earning well, but feeling anxious about holding wealth. So maybe you're noticing patterns of spending it, like not being consistent, overworking when you don't need to. So resting doesn't feel easy, or difficulty asking for more or being paid your value. And in rest, it can be like feeling lazy when you slow down, or needing to earn rest, or feeling restlessness during stillness, like you're going crazy. Most people can't even recognize that they don't know how to rest because they might think that by doing house chores, they're resting, but they're not. And also they might think that they're not doing much, but their mind can't shut off. And that's still not resting. And in admiration, it can feel deflecting praises, minimizing success, and feeling exposed when being seen. So we deflect and we dismiss. Most importantly, these, are not flaws. They are protective patterns that once kept you safe, but now they're blocking your next level. So I want to bring this to some really powerful examples and stories in my personal life, and because that will help you to put that into perspective. And I've walked this path on my own, and I know that you can break patterns as much as I did. In love, for a long time, my receiving wound showed up so much in all my relationships, including friendships. And I was consistently choosing unavailable partners or even friends that were takers. And I really remember this moment vividly that I was driving and I heard this quote saying, if you're choosing emotionally unavailable men, it's because you are emotionally unavailable too. They're just a mirror. So you probably, if you're hearing this and you're like, really? I'm not emotionally unavailable, then I encourage you to sit for a second. Because in that moment, I almost crashed the car. I was so mad. I was like, that's not true. I'm such a giver. I'm so emotionally available, and I went so much into resistance. And when you go into resistance, you probably want to lean into, when you're a lot more calmer and regulated, that there might be something there to uncover. What do you mean I am emotionally unavailable? I thought, again, all I want is to give. And I gave so much all this time. I care too much. I feel too much. Something really landed that day because I was emotionally unavailable to myself. And I stayed busy all the time. I did not sit with my feelings. I didn't slow down enough to actually feel what was happening inside of me. So of course, my external world was reflecting that back to me. I was overgiving love, overproving my worth, and the pattern I kept meeting was breadcrumbs. Not because I wasn't worthy of more, but because my nervous system wasn't yet available to receive more. The shift didn't come from demanding more from love or like going out and be like, now I need to find this partner. Yes, it's more like the 20% strategy that we do, but the 80% is the energetic shift, the subconscious at a cellular level that you have inside. And it came not from the mind, from the body. It came when I started giving myself the permission to feel the presence of myself, reconnect with myself, feel safe within myself, and not outsourcing it outside of me. That's one of the core principles of Reclaimed. Love does not come to you. It comes from you're not chasing love. You already are one with source energy. You already have everything within yourself. You just have to remember who you are. And then the life outside of you will reflect that back to you. When my system expanded, I started holding more. And different partners came in until my current soulmate, who is absolutely to the T amazing. Like, if you need to hear this to the end, never settle, then never settle. Because that person that has it all will show up in your life when you're ready to receive it. So let me know if this is you in love. I would love to read your comments and know what's going on in that. But the most important thing then, let's shift to money and rest, because these are deeply connected. And I want to share an example that was classic for me. With money, my receiving wound looked like overworking myself when I didn't need to. I had this feeling that I needed to stay busy. Rest was never safe. And I was disorganized because chaos was running every day. It was like restlessness, and slowing down felt really lazy. If I wasn't producing, I felt very uncomfortable going, and I burnt myself out. There were also deep ancestral patterns, I'm not going to lie, that I had to unroot. A lot of anxiety around holding wealth and around safety and around what if it disappears. That's a whole other episode. And we will talk about money and ancestral patterns in another episode. But there was something else too. Growing up, I was taught very clearly, as I shared before, that money had to be earned. So once again, that's how my body was wired. And ease felt very unsafe, and that belief stayed within my subconscious and followed me into adulthood. And healing this wasn't about forcing rest. It was, I do stop and take a vacation or turn off my phone. I actually recharge. And when I recharge, I am in receiving mode and feminine energy so that things and opportunity can come in. In business, I'm going to give you a very classic example. It's going to look like that. You can do your promotional material, like promotional content, and like go out and be this, and your offer is this. But then if you don't sit back and rest, nothing can come through. So a lot of the time, I push something and then I sit back and take like a 5-day vacation to reset. And in that, I put myself in receiving mode and then it comes back. If I stayed in overgiving mode and over pushing and masculine energy, those people can come in. So energetically, I have to sit back and I just take a quick vacation, staycation, whatever I need in that time. So it has worked every time. This is using the energetics in your business. And if you want to learn more, type business energetics. Now, the integration. Let's talk about the integration because I want to for you to hear this clearly. None of this meant that I was broken. Okay, these were very intelligent adaptations to survive. They protected me when I needed protection, but there comes a moment when what once kept you safe starts keeping you small. And healing the receiving wound is not about becoming someone else. It's about letting your body catch up to the woman you are meant to become. And you've always been this woman. You just have to reclaim her. So what healing the receive wound actually requires? So many people are like, Sara, what do you do? Because for a logical brainer like I was, it's very hard to describe an energetic shift in your body and when you finally feel like free from something. But let me just break it down. Healing doesn't mean becomes passive, and it doesn't mean giving up ambition. It does not mean that you're going to be softer. It means teaching the body a new experience of safety. So healing begins when receiving is no longer tied to obligation. Support does not equal loss of power. Rest does not threaten your identity. And love does not require performance or chasing. It happens slowly. And if you do it in what I call the recalibration session, this is a very rapid transformation because I didn't have the time to spend 5 years to heal my nervous system from PTSD after a divorce and start breaking patterns. I was like, I don't have time. And I need a rapid transformation method that I've learned. I started with subconscious reprogramming and then integrated my way to recalibrate people using bridging neuroscience and the energetics. So it's very focused on unrooting the root cause at a subconscious and at a body level, wherever that's stored. Because the body needs a new internal reference point. The body has an emotional regulator. That's where, and during this time together, this session, this time, it's helped to help the nervous system release the patterns at the root cause, not just cope with them. So a lot of the time people go for therapy and then they hit a wall because they've learned how to cope it, but the root is still there. So if you have a weed, you can't cut the top, it's going to grow back up. So we have to unroot it. And that's what we do. Instead of asking the story, oftentimes, I don't want to hear the story because the story is part of what you created to survive. And that can keep you in your hero journey or in victimhood. We need to go back at the root of what the body has registered in that moment and resolve it. And what I've constantly seen, both personally and with my clients, is that when the system recalibrates, people experience shifts like a sudden sense of calm when anxiety used to live there, more access to rest without guilt, or maybe making money within the 24 hours period after the session, or maybe a person reaching out after the session, a new person coming in, less emotional charge around old patterns, like the anger, it's gone. And so they can bring a greater capacity to receive because we are recalibrating the system. And there is this new modality that again bridges the neuroscience, has saved my life, and the energetics, that in one single session can really reduce 10 years of therapy. And I want to be very clear for the people that are listening to this, because so many times it is true. 99% of the time, people do not change, but because I feel that they don't have the necessary steps in knowing how to rapidly transform themselves. And you have to shift internally for the new reality to be shown to you externally. And that's happened at a subconscious, and that happens in the nervous system. Receiving comes possible when you unroot literally the trauma, the trapped emotions that you've been keeping. And if you've read the book, The Body Keeps the Score, then you probably understand that yes, the body holds on to trauma and holds on to the emotion. So we need to just release them, and that creates a new reality. So I want to just bring you back to rapid transformation is possible. Receiving is possible. And when you shift to a receiving place, this is not a less powerful version of yourself. You are more spacious. You are more integrated. You can receive without guilt. You're going to notice a lot more less self-sabotage when you do this work than you would have normally. And you understand that your worth is not dependent on your value, is inherent, and your present is enough. So a lot of the time in love, clients are like, well, I'm not doing enough. And I'm like, but just being you in your presence is enough. You don't have to do more. And the moment you start embodying being me is enough, that's the moment you attract that partner because you're love, and that partner wants to cherish you and love you. and gift you things and or opportunities or travel with you and you just need to be there and be you and love them back. And of course, if you want to, you can cook for them, and then we can go into the different diversity of the type of woman you want to be. But just being you is enough. This is literally the integrated embodiment of female leadership in life, love, and it's your queen energy. It's your sovereignty of I'm standing in I amness and the world responds to this. So I want to bring you back to notice how your body tightens when support arrives. When someone says, hey, let me help you. Or maybe when you do need help, but you don't ask for it. Notice when you deflect what you desire or when ease feels unfamiliar. What would it feel to receive money with ease? What would it feel to receive love by not doing all the 100 tasks that you are not behind? You're right where you need to be. This is a sacred initiation. This is reclaimed, and I invite you to join the membership and or to just act in your rapid transformation, and I'll place both link below. And I will see you next week. And just remember, you can change your life in one instant. And a big ciao.